Hi everyone, and welcome back to Carols of Wisdom for my first No Buy year. Today's topic is going to be how the work of the holidays falls disproportionately to women. So I saw at the end of the last holiday season a lot of posting on social media. I was still on TikTok at the time. So I saw some TikToks about how women, if they didn't buy themselves a holiday gift from their husband, they just wouldn't get anything. And I think there were a few women who experimented with this and didn't buy themselves the gifts and didn't end up receiving anything. And I think that's why the posts were happening, on TikTok or whatever. People were kind of calling this out, calling out their men folk for being kind of terrible at holiday traditions. And, I'm sure there's more to that picture. If it's been a kind of long-standing tradition for the woman to get all of the gifts and they didn't alert their man to this, then, maybe there's more to the story and maybe their husbands wouldn't know that it was kind of fall to them this year. We can speculate all we want to, but we can't really know what was going on behind the scenes of a 30-second TikTok or whatever. But the point still stands that for the holidays and many arenas of life, the work at home disproportionately falls to women or the female partner in a relationship. It's kind of one of those social phenomena that have been going on for way too long and maybe had reasons that were more rooted in practicality at the beginning. And by practicality, I also mean in patriarchy and misogyny, but we are trying to break free from that in this day and age, right? It's kind of become more acceptable or more unacceptable to be misogynistic. And to be a reasonable person, it also goes to follow that reasonable expectations are set regarding the split of household duties. And if both parents are working, if both people in a relationship are working, if there are kids involved, they'll be parents, But if both people are working and both people have kids and both people have the house, then it's kind of both of the partner's responsibilities to do the work. And when it comes to something like a holiday season, it's not even really so much about workload balance, right? It's kind of a tradition, a cultivation of traditions, almost a routine of traditions, happening year after year. And it does seem like there's more and more things that are getting added year after year. So when I was a kid, for example, there was not the tradition of the elf on the shelf, which he's out and about in the house now. So we are doing the elf is moving around every night. They're magical and all that. So, but that's one other thing to monitor every single day of December until Christmas, because you have to make sure you remind the elf to move. And if that doesn't happen, then it can cause a little bit of suspicion, why were they sleeping all night? Anyway, and then I recently saw Shauna Raipari's first video of Vlogmas about the burr baskets. And once again, this does seem to be a predominantly female trend. And yes, maybe your boyfriend is supposed to get one for you if you are a female in a relationship, or maybe that's kind of the subtext there, is that it's a gift formula for men to give women. But it is something that's given primarily to women. And from what I've seen, at least, which hasn't been much, I'm going to be honest, it was mainly what she covered in her video, most of the people posting about it are women and talking about doing it for their kids and their friends. And that's kind of the scope of which that I've seen. And we keep on adding more and more things that inevitably the person who cares more about it is going to have to manage. And I don't know if that's part of the problem here, is that men just don't care about these kind of warm and fuzzy traditions. I don't think it's fair to say that men are less consumerist as a whole. I think their interests just tend to lie in different areas of consumerism. Perhaps the areas about which they will feel guilty or anxious or insecure are in a different realm than women. And maybe it's true to say that men won't feel guilty if they don't get their guy friends a gift for Christmas. Maybe that's, again, weigh in if you're a man watching this channel. I know my audience is predominantly female identifying, so perhaps there aren't any of you here to comment, but I'm sure most of you know somebody who's a man in your life and you can kind of draw on your own personal experiences. All are welcome though. I'll reiterate that. I guess at this point, I will share a little bit of a personal opinion and experience and kind of observation, I guess, about this in my own family life. Historically, over the past few years, I have been the one to do most of the holiday shopping, to do most of the holiday gifting, to do the wrapping and, placing the presents under the tree and all of that kind of thing, the choosing of the gifts for each individual person in our immediate family, and this refers to kids. And I do remember years ago when I did not buy gifts for myself, and the things I got under the tree were very utilitarian and very kind of last minute. So they were not gifts that were full of thought. I remember getting a towel for Christmas one time, and I'm pretty sure we were already going to get those towels in the first place. And it is kind of a running joke that my husband now gets the practical things for Christmas. So a couple of years ago, we needed a new hot water kettle, and so we put that under the tree for him because he doesn't really need anything. He tends to buy what he wants over the year. And it might be a better alternative to just not do gifts for the adults at all, this being the case. But I'm still kind of grappling with that because going forward, I would love for next year to be a successful no-buy year for myself, or more successful than this year anyway, and to still therefore have budget and space, space to bring something new in for the holiday season, because there's still something nice about having a gift under the tree, at least in my opinion right now. I might change by next year, but I kind of see the future where maybe I don't buy so much through the year. Anything that kind of catches my fancy can kind of be on a back of the mind wish list. Maybe not a physical wish list, that remains to be seen. If my relationship towards buying things changes, maybe there will be room for a physical wish list to keep kind of for other people. Who knows? But for now, where I see it going is if I can successfully not buy throughout the year, especially because these things are wants and not needs, then it could be the time to add something for these gift-giving occasions. And if I had these things in a place where maybe my husband could access the wish list or whatever, things that I kind of wanted throughout the year and still want at the end of the year, then it might be appropriate for him to choose one or two things that catch his fancy, off of the things that I want, that he thinks that I would get a lot of use out of. I don't know how many things would end up on this wish list if I keep doing this work of separating myself from wanting things and decreasing desires and examining why people want what they want and how society and marketing manipulate us to consume. So maybe there won't be anything on the wish list next year anyway. Who knows? Stay tuned. Project No Buy 2025. But getting back to the point of this video, if I totally left it and didn't say anything to my own husband, I am pretty sure he would be running out to the store on December 24th, realizing that there was nothing under the tree for myself and possibly the kids too. And I'm not even saying that it's necessarily his fault that this would be the case. It is kind of the precedent that right now, anyway, he has the full-time job and much greater burden at work. He does have a relatively stressful job, and I have therefore kind of agreed, we have talked about it, to take on more of the home tasks, which enables me to then keep my part-time job and not do a job like his. It has been an option actually several times for me to apply for the exact same job, which would of course double our salary and make our financial picture better, although it would make our home life probably significantly worse, since both of us would be working 40 hours a week with the hour commute every day, 30 minutes each way, so hour total. And I would then also have a stressful job and have less bandwidth for home life. So we've decided to do things the way they are. It's not impossible that if I win a full-time symphony job that makes a high enough salary, we will swap and he will become the stay-at-home / part-time, do whatever kind of odd jobs parent. So it's not that we're locked into these roles. I do hypothesize, though, that even if I were to be the full-time worker, I would still probably do the work of Christmas. Part of it's because I enjoy that kind of traditional sentimental work, and shopping, perhaps, if I'm totally honest, I enjoy shopping for these kinds of things much more than my husband does, toys, games, books, clothes. He's kind of approaching all of those in a more utilitarian way, and also from the lens of we don't need more of that stuff, our kids included. And I'm getting much closer to that, right? I'm getting much closer to our kids don't need anything new until they grow out of their clothes. They definitely don't need new toys. They have plenty of games, things like that. I am still kind of, there's a lot of joy in the Christmas morning experience, unboxing something new to them even. It doesn't have to be new from the store. And I still kind of have an attachment to that, even if I am trying to decrease it this year and working from the things we already have. I think I shared this earlier, but I do have, a while ago, I thrifted a box full of used games, and I've kind of been giving these to the kids for gift-giving occasions for the past, few years, couple of years since I got the box. since it didn't make sense to overwhelm them with all of the new games at once. So I still have some of those thrifted games left. I think they might be getting a couple of those under the tree. There will be a couple of books, and I've already shared this a couple of times during this Vlogmas, but there will probably be some sweet treats as well, since we do have kind of a limited access to those in our household, trying to get away from the ultra-processed foods and certainly the sugar, kids and adults alike. So there will be an opportunity to use those as a bit of a treat over the holiday season. Anyway, I don't really have an answer for the conundrum that women do more of this kind of homework, work at home, than men. And I also don't really have an answer for the disappointment of when you leave gifting to the devices of men, how they tend to do, at least in my experience, again, I'm not speaking for all men out there, they tend to do a pretty horrible job. And there might be, at the beginning of a relationship, there might be a lot of effort put in because there's, the environment of newness and wanting to please your partner, the freshness of a new relationship. And, honestly, that does kind of fade a little bit and morph into something else, stability, contentment, long-term love and all that. And I'm not knocking all that, and I'm not saying that one is better than the other, but the effort to put in the thought for a gift, in my experience, does tend to go a little bit by the wayside. And it's also an environment where it's difficult to kind of reframe our relationship to these things, especially if your partner doesn't really care about that kind of sentiment in the same way that you do. And there's talk about different love languages and how gift giving is one of them and quality time is another, and acts of service and words of affirmation and physical touch and whatever. And I'm not really going to get into that. I'm not sure how much I believe in those theories as a whole. I think to some degree everybody can like all of those things, and I'm not sure, I'm just not an expert in it, so I'm just going to leave that there. But I guess the bottom line is that if we can get on the same page as much as possible and let go of the expectations that we might be carrying, then we can maybe all come out of the holiday season a little bit happier. And I guess the time to have the discussion about holiday expectations would have been a little while earlier. If you're watching this Vlogmas, I think this is like day 10 or 11. And, it's not too late to have that conversation if you haven't had it yet and you are thinking about this in the back of your mind, like, why is all the holiday work falling to me if I'm the woman of this relationship? And if you don't want it to, or if you're feeling the pressure or the guilt or anything like that, if you're not feeling anything negative about it, then I also don't think it's wrong for you to take on that responsibility, as long as it's a choice and as long as your partner is aware that you are doing the work that's required, the steps that are required, if you don't want to call it work, to make the holidays happen, so to speak. If that's something you truly enjoy doing and don't mind taking off of your partner, then that's also fine. I'm not mandating that there has to be equality in the amount of thought that everybody puts into the holidays, but it is a known phenomenon that men in general are not necessarily totally reciprocal in all areas of housework. So there we are. Hence the subject of today's video. Anyway, I guess this is a video of questions and observations more than answers or suggestions. So if you have any personal stories, gift disasters perhaps, drop them in the comments down below. I would love to hear about them. I think the final point for me, as far as thoughts for the future, is that I am kind of curious as to what would happen if I really stopped buying things over the year and tried to shift that expectation onto my husband to say, look, I am really trying to not buy stuff that I want but don't need. Therefore, for my birthday, for Christmas, if you want to do that for other gift-giving holidays, like I know this past year, I kind of got myself some things that I wanted but didn't need for Valentine's Day and Mother's Day. And I don't think that's the place to do that. But again, I don't think it's totally out of left field or inappropriate if your partner takes it upon themselves to do that. And I'm not going to be suggesting that this year. I'm not going to say, oh, those could be gift-giving occasions. No, that's not my point here. I'm not trying to suggest that those become gifting occasions for other people. But I guess what I'm trying to say is if I totally free myself, at least from gifting anything to myself, if I do put that responsibility entirely on the people in my life, what is going to happen? What's that going to look like? How long will it take for it to become thoughtful and meaningful, and for those people in my life to choose things that I would truly like and use or consume? They could give me quick consumables or consumables that they know that I use as well. There's nothing wrong with that. Or plan experiences, all of the above. There's no gifts that are off the table. It doesn't have to be a physical gift either. But I'm also, the question is, how long would it take for that to become the new normal and for it to become successful and fulfilling for all involved? So again, if you have stories of doing this in your own life, or if you are with me and you want to kind of put some of that responsibility back onto your partner that you've maybe taken from them for various reasons, or they've given to you for various reasons, let me know. Let me know if you want to try this with me. Let me know your stories if you've already done it. And let me know your hypotheses too. Like, what do you think would happen if you suddenly did that? I mean, with a discussion, of course, it's not fair to totally expect. Again, having expectations that match up have to be communicated to be given even a shot of success, right? So communicate the expectation, and if the expectation needs to shift, what is it going to take for that shift to actually be successful? And I guess when I think about it, I am gently advocating for this, at least in my own life, because I do see how kind of self-defeating the idea of getting your own gifts can be. There's a total lack of the element of surprise and delight. Not that all adults like surprises, but even if it was something as simple as keeping a wish list for the holiday season of a selection of gifts and not treating it like this is the collection of stuff I must have, but these are things that I would like to receive or would enjoy receiving. And maybe that's the other aspect of this kind of wish list thing, where in the past when I made a wish list, it was a case of I'll get these things eventually. And it was more of a complete picture, right? Where it wasn't a case of I would be okay if I got it or didn't get it. It was more of a to-do list of eventually I will get all this stuff. It's just a matter of which order to prioritize it in, and balancing finances and balancing which things I want more at this time, whatever. And I think the way to be successful in using a wish list for others to give to you is if you don't have to receive everything on the wish list. And therefore, there is some element of surprise and delight when somebody chooses one thing off of it and you don't know which thing you're going to get. And it also requires that you don't buy the other things on your wish list, at least until the holiday seasons have passed and you know which things that you didn't get, and you can reevaluate, do I actually still want some of this stuff? Is any of this, do I need to receive all of the things that I want? And I think the answer, at least for me, should be no, I don't. And that's what I'm working towards. So anyway, that was kind of a winding rant about how men are involved or not involved in the gift-giving season, and how I want to personally involve the people in my life. And it doesn't have to be men or women, it could be any genders or any, kind of relationships in your life that maybe you've taken on too much of the work or disproportionate levels of the effort in. So again, apply it to your lives as necessary. Share your stories below. And I will wrap up this discussion today here. God test ye merry gentlemen to gift without dismay. I thought that one was clever anyway. Okay, bye for now, and I will see you in the next one.